Hi, Rudy Winston from Canon USA with our in-depth tutorial series on the EOS 6D Mark II. In this third episode on AF control and custom functions, we'll deal with those custom functions that concern the viewfinder display in the camera. Custom function 13 is called AF point selection movement. And what this function is going to do is let you control what happens when you move a focusing point or a focusing area and you reach the end of a row. What's going to happen if you press the control pad on the back of the camera again? Will it simply stop, which is the factory default, or will a next press move it back to the opposite end of the same row so you can start again? Using that option does let you quickly move from one side to another. Custom function 14 is the AF point display during focus. And this gives you some interesting options in terms of what you see for focusing information in the EOS 6D Mark II's viewfinder. The first two options in particular are where most of our 6D customers are probably going to be. But I want to explain all of them so you understand what they do. The first option is the factory default, and that's called selected constant. And what that means is that only the selected active focusing point appears in your viewfinder, but it will appear constantly. Once you wake the camera up by tapping the shutter button, it'll stay visible as long as the camera is powered up. The next option is all constant. And what this means is that you'll see the location of the point or AF area that you have highlighted in the viewfinder, but the location of every other AF point is going to be visible as a small box in the finder. And this can be very useful to let you know how much focusing area you have and where you can move focusing points to if you decide to. The next set of options are for those who find that the constant display of focusing points sometimes gets in their way of seeing the subject. Selected pre-AF focused means that you'll see the active focusing point or group of points available in the viewfinder until your focusing begins, and then it disappears. So in other words, you wake the camera up, you'll see them. When you press the shutter button down halfway to begin focusing or the rear AF on button, at that point, your viewfinder display is cleared of focusing points. The next option is even more of that, and that's called selected AF point focused. Your viewfinder display will be completely clear of focusing points except for the moment when autofocus begins. So in other words, when you press the shutter button down or the back AF on button and focusing begins, for a moment, the location of your focusing point or your AF area will appear, but it'll then disappear again. Autofocus operation continues to work as normal, but the display of points in the viewfinder is extremely minimal and is ideally suited for those photographers who want as clean a display as possible. And then the final option is disable display. You can still use autofocus with this set, but what this is doing, as the name suggests, is it completely removes AF points from the viewfinder display. You have a clean viewfinder 100% of the time. Custom function 15 is viewfinder display illumination. The auto setting is the factory default. When you go to shoot a picture, the camera is able to tell immediately whether you're in a bright area or a dimly lit area. In dimly lit areas, the camera will briefly flash red illumination of your focusing points so that you can see where you're focusing. The enable setting means that you'll have full-time illumination. What I mean by that is in bright sunlight or in dim light, you'll once again have that brief flash of red illumination when you're in one-shot AF. Now, in either setting, if you press the Q button on the back of the camera, you'll get a second menu that will let you decide whether you want AF illumination during AI servo focus. And this is a little different. If you decide to activate that, when you're actually focusing in AI servo with a moving subject, the system will continually blink that red illumination so that you'll get an updated view, even in dim light, of where your focusing point is relative to your subject. And then finally, there is a disable setting which completely disables any display illumination. It's important with autofocus to be able to see what you're doing and where you're focusing. And the viewfinder display in this camera gives you a considerable amount of control over how your focusing points appear and how they're illuminated during shooting. These are settings you should experiment with, get to know, and find your comfort zone when you're working with the 6D Mark II camera.